Hello folks, this is going to be a discussion video. I'm going to start doing these videos at least somewhat regularly. I've been really wanting to do these types of videos for a while now, and so I decided with the new year here that I'm going to start doing these now. Okay, so this video is going to be entitled My Struggles as a Musician. So I know this is not the happiest sounding video, but this is something I've been really wanting to talk about for a while now. So first of all, I'll just go into a little bit of my history as a musician. I started to play guitar when I was 13. Initially, I just started on this like cheap acoustic guitar that we had at home, and then I got my own electric guitar when I was 15. Got an amp and a few pedals and whatnot. And initially, I took some lessons when I was 13, but that didn't really work out. The guy who I was taking lessons with was a really young guy. He was still a teenager as well. He was in his late teens. He was just really flaky and just a very unreliable guy, so that didn't really work out. So I started to purchase a bunch of books on like chords and scales and music theory and whatnot, and started to learn that way. This would have been back in like 1999, 2000, so this would have been well before YouTube and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I just went through these books and tried to make heads or tails out of it the best that I could. I mean, I was definitely confused by some of it, especially with regards to some of the theory stuff, but eventually I figured it out. But I just struggled with the guitar. I mean, I had no mentors, no nothing. I didn't know any musicians, know any guitar players, and nobody in my family is a musician whatsoever. No musicians at all. So, I was just stuck learning all this on my own, and it was definitely a struggle. But I persevered, and throughout my teens, especially my later teens, I just continued to play, doing the best I could, and was making a lot of errors, a lot of mistakes. I really didn't know how to learn properly or what I should be doing, and so it was definitely a struggle. And I guess towards my later teens, like 19, maybe around 20 or so, I wasn't really playing much at all. Just kind of gave it up for a while. I was dealing with a lot of personal issues. There was a lot of struggles within my life, and so that wasn't really a priority of mine at the time. I really didn't have the motivation either for music at that time. But when I was 21, things started to kind of level out in my life quite a bit. I got a steady job and all that kind of stuff, and things were going better. And so yeah, music became a much bigger priority for me at that time. I started to take guitar much more seriously, playing every day as much as I could, learning songs, and yeah, just putting a lot of effort into it. And so I started to write my own music when I was like 21. I just initially started writing like riffs, and I would record these riffs on like this cheap cassette player that I had. And at that time, I was just really into like black metal. Black metal was something that I just really fell in love with at that time. So I was just writing a lot of like more like black metal style riffs. And yeah, still I didn't have anybody to play with. I knew a few people that kind of dabble with music a little bit, but they weren't really serious about it necessarily, and they certainly weren't into like black metal or even metal that much. Most of the friends that I kind of had around that time were, to be honest, were just losers. They're into drugs and all that kind of shit, and just weren't really doing much with their lives. So, but yeah, that's kind of the friends, unfortunately, I had at that time. I would eventually get rid of them, but that took a little bit of time. But yeah, I just started writing my own stuff and just was playing like every day as much as I could. I had some shitty job at that time, but it was enough to sort of get me by financially. But I would spend my evenings just playing guitar quite a bit, and things were going well. And then I started writing full songs when I was 22, and then I released my first album, DIY album. I'll show you it. It's right here. When I was 22 as well. When I was around 22 and a half, almost 23 maybe, I put out this DIY album. Very crude, very raw. Just a homemade cover. This is an actual photo that I took of the St. River here in Lorette, Manitoba. Very crude looking. I just made this on like a printer that we had at home. Burned the CDs on the home computer that we had at the time. I didn't even have my own computer or laptop at that time. I just used my mom's PC. But yeah, that's how I did it. And this was 5 songs, and you know, kind of raw sounding. I mean, certainly very primitive sounding. I recorded it on like a 4-track. I got like a drum machine, so I started programming drums from the get-go. Like I said, I didn't have anybody to play music with. Didn't know any drummers. any guitarists or bassists or anything like that. And I mean, I was in associations with different people, right? I had a job at that time dealing with lots of people, so I was talking to people about my music, and unfortunately, yeah, I wasn't able to meet people. I mean, I was always meeting people and talking to people about my music, but yeah, people just weren't interested. Especially the town where well, I still live in the same town. It's just not a metal town at all. I mean, growing up, nobody was really into metal. I was basically like the only metalhead in school. Only guy that had like long hair and wore metal shirts. There was maybe a few other people that were into like a bit of metal. Some of the more commercial stuff. But like as far as like someone that was like deeply into metal, I was pretty much it. Lorette is just not a metal town at all. But yeah, and so unfortunately, I was just having continuous struggles finding other people, but I just, was doing everything on my own, and that's kind of what I accepted early on. And then I started to put out more albums, DIY albums, and I was just putting out one after another. I put out 9 of these DIY albums. Like this was my second album that I put out, probably like 4 months after the first one. And then this one again, probably like 4 or 5 months after. So I just kept pumping them out, right? And again, all DIY, just covers that I would make myself, print the CDs at home. Again, these are all recorded on a 4-track with a drum machine, me doing the guitar and the bass, and there was no vocals initially. These early albums did not have vocals. However, I started doing vocals after a while. This is the 7th one right here. So you can see that I was pumping out quite a few of them. I was putting out like an album every 4, 5, 6, 7 months or so. And then this one right here, this is a very good album, I feel. This one does have vocals on it. This is definitely more of a doom metal style of album. I'm very happy about this album. I put this album when I was 25. Really good stuff, and it should have taken off because these songs are really memorable. They have kind of more of like a Count Raven, Electric Wizard kind of vibe going on. Pretty catchy. I think the production is, especially considering it was recorded on, I think like an 8-track or something like that. I can't recall what I had at that time, but I'd moved on from having a 4-track. I got an 8-track eventually, and so I believe that's what this was recorded on, was an 8-track. Yeah, a Zoom 8-track, I believe that's what that was, or 16-track rather. Yeah, I think that's what I had. And I remember showing this to people and having them listen to it. I would always print off quite a few copies of all these albums. I would print off like 20 or 30 copies and just give them out to people at work, people that I would meet at work, because I was dealing with quite a few people at work, customers that I was dealing with, and other people I was associated with, sort of like friends and acquaintances and whatnot. And people were somewhat interested maybe, but not enough to be willing to play with me. And so it was always a disappointment. I just continued to play music on my own all the time, day after day, and I was just doing it all on my own for years. I mean, and there was really nobody that was ever really interested or expressed interest in playing with me. I mean, this album, like I said, I just always felt really good about it, and it should have taken off because it's pretty damn good. I still feel really good about that album. I was 25 at the time when that album came out. I put out this album here, so this would have been the 9th one. Then when I was around 27 or 28 years old, I changed the name of my band to Unrest. I released one album with Unrest. All the other ones are under my original name, which is My Cross. But yeah, I was just doing everything on my own, just pushing forward, doing the best I could. There was really nobody that was really interested in it. Unfortunately, I should have been going to shows. That's kind of one of my big downfalls in my life, and I've been really realizing that now, especially over the past while. I should have been really branching out and going to shows and really interacting with people, especially since I live close to a big city, which is Winnipeg, and there are a lot of venues that put on a lot of bands, local bands and whatnot. So I should have been going to these shows earlier on, but I guess I was just not really into it maybe. But I should have been, and that's really one of my big downfalls, to be honest. But yeah, just continue to do everything on my own. This Unrest album I feel is pretty good. More of like an atmospheric black metal style. So I put this out when I was around 28, I believe, 29 possibly. And then I know for a couple of years I didn't really put out anything. I think I was just, I know I was playing music quite a bit still, and but I just kind of put things aside, especially with regards to recording music. And I had moved around quite a bit at that time to some different apartments, some real shithole apartments. It was just not so good there for a little while, but you know, I had some really stressful job, I remember, in one of the cities here. But I was still continuing to play music. I just wasn't really recording. I was just kind of putting that off and then trying to figure out my next move because I know I wanted to kind of do something somewhat different. And so I developed a new band, which is sort of a continuation of what I had been doing. Came up with a new name, which is Ordo Ab Chao. Put out this album. This is my debut album with Ordo Ab Chao. So I was really stepping it up here. I feel really good about this album. Ordo Ab Chao really went to a bit of a different direction. The quality is definitely quite a bit more. Of course, these are actual legit CDs here that were printed at a shop here in Winnipeg. So the quality is definitely quite a bit better. And still continue to try to make you know, contacts with people, and yeah, just nobody was really interested still. Very disappointing. You know, I just continue to do everything on my own as always, using a drum machine and playing all the guitar tracks and the vocals and the bass and all that kind of stuff, writing the lyrics. You know, it was a lot of work. It's always been quite a bit of work, especially when I started doing vocals and writing the lyrics. You know, it was just an extra task that I had to take on, and I've never been the greatest lyricist, to be honest. It's always been a struggle of mine. You know, my main primary focus is guitar, right? Just coming up with the guitar riffs, the arrangements, and all that sort of thing. But writing lyrics has always been sort of a weakness of mine. But yeah, I just continued on. This was my second release here, entitled Her Medical Desolation. Again, printed at a shop here in Winnipeg. That's where things start to kind of take off a little bit for me, because that's when I start to really get on social media and promote myself quite a bit. I started to associate with some people on social media, more so, especially on YouTube. There were some people at that time, especially, that I was sort of becoming friends with somewhat. Um, but yeah, and they started to help me out a little bit by promoting my music on their YouTube channels, and yeah, I started to make some more friends online, and so yeah, people were starting to kind of take notice a little bit more. So I was starting to kind of get a little bit more happier about that, and then I did release this split album with this band here from Manitoba entitled Scars. He contacted me to do this split album, so I was happy about that. I felt like things were starting to really take off. People were starting to notice. You know, here I am being contacted by another one-man metal band from here in Manitoba to do a split album. It felt pretty good, right? Like, I was happy about that. I felt like, okay, people are starting to really notice. So this is where it was starting to get somewhat better. Again, at this time I was in my early 30s. So yeah, things were starting to get a little bit better. And then I know some other people had contacted me around that time also. I know I did some vocals for a band out of California, a black metal band. I wrote lyrics for another band out of the US as well. Can't remember the name of the band, but I was somebody I was kind of like acquaintances with. And, you know, starting to get some opportunities here. And then here's where things started to kind of take a bit of a turn, because this was mixed and mastered by a professional mixing and master engineer. And yeah, because up until now I'd done everything on my own, and you know, I'm no recording engineer. I'm certainly not a mixing and mastering guy. I don't really, and I've always struggled with that, right? I just did the best I could with what I had, and it was, you know, my album sounded pretty kind of, you know, primitive, I suppose, right? Not because I wanted them to, but it's just I was limited with what I had, right? I didn't really have the technology or the know-how to do these certain things, right? Or the knowledge or anything like that. So I just did the best I could with what I had, which, like I said, was very limited gear. I'm not a big gear guy either. I'm just a guy who likes to write music and play guitar and come up with riffs and arrangements. That's more of my thing. That's my strength. I'm not a big gear guy, you know. But this was where I finally decided, you know what, I gotta hire somebody. And so I managed to find somebody, um, sort of a somebody through work, a client of mine, their son. I was talking to him one day, and this was somebody that was part of the film industry, and so he knew somebody, a friend of his that he'd known for a long time. He said, or he recommended him. So I was like, okay. I contacted him, and yeah, things went really well. We made this CD together. This is an EP, and so pretty proud with this one. The production is definitely quite a bit better than what I had done previously. So things were definitely getting better. I was starting to, invest more into things. Obviously spending money on that, getting better gear, and taking things to another level. And then I worked with him again on this album. This is a full-length album. Really happy about this one. This is the beginning of where I had other people begin to do the artwork for me, because up until now I'd always just done all my own covers myself. I'd taken pictures, and that's another thing. I would just take pictures of myself. I had like a nice camera, or I still do have a nice camera. I think I initially used like a Nikon D80. I think that's what it was, and then now I have a Canon Rebel. So I had a bit of camera knowledge, and I was somewhat good at taking pictures, and so that's what I would do. But I decided, well, if I'm going to sort of advance things here, I gotta do something different. So I contacted the guy out of the Philippines, and he had painted that cover for me, and looks pretty good. I mean, even the rest of the design looks much better. These are professional CDs, glass mastered CDs. I had these printed from a place in Toronto, Canada. So definitely a much better quality. As you can see, these aren't CDRs. It's a much better quality. And still doing most of the other photos myself. Just grinding it out, and just doing everything on my own as much as I could. Right, I've always been a DIY guy. It's been tough. I'll go off into the woods and take photos of myself, right, and edit them later. And it's always been a lot of work just doing everything on your own, writing all the music, the lyrics, the arrangements, and taking all the photos and coming up with the lyrics and the whole concept of the albums. And then, of course, for the past several years, I've been doing a lot on social media like Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, and really trying to promote myself in there. But it's just been a real struggle as well. I've made some friends, maybe a handful of people, but I've been really consistent with what I've been posting. Unfortunately, there hasn't been much engagement, to be honest. It's been actually quite disappointing oftentimes. I've just been grinding pretty hard oftentimes, just posting stuff, trying to come up with different ideas. And I know some of my ideas maybe aren't the greatest. Maybe I repeat myself quite a bit of times in terms of what I'm doing, but it's tough to come up with the ideas, especially when I'm really focusing on so much of the other aspects of my music career. And so it's been a real struggle there, doing the whole social media thing, trying to get some attention there. Of course, I have paid for some ads as well. I don't know how effective that is, and but yeah, I have managed to sell some CDs. I've developed a small fan base, very small. It's been I'm grateful for the people that have taken interest in my music. I truly am. But I thought by now things would have been better. I feel like I've been really working hard at it and making my music better, like a better quality, and really trying to get better songs and better production, and of course getting more attractive looking albums. And but yeah, things just really haven't taken off for me, unfortunately. I'm in my late 30s now, almost 40. I'll be 40 this summer. I feel like things should have taken off by now. I feel like I've been grinding so hard, and there really hasn't been much interest. There's been really no interest in people wanting to play with me. I've kind of just, decided that this is just going to be the way it is. I'm going to be a one-man band. I kind of decided that years ago, and I'm content with that, to be honest. But you think there would be people out there that would take an interest in playing with me, but especially since I'm so active online, social media, and elsewhere. You think people would have approached me and taken interest and said, hey, let's play music together. There's only been maybe one or two people, to be honest, throughout the years. And yeah, it's just been a real disappointment. Like I said, I mean, I do take some responsibility. Like I said, I should be going to shows, and that is my intention with 2026 now here. I'm going to begin to go to shows, right? I have gone to some over the past couple of years or so, but I'm going to start going to them at least somewhat regularly, and really force myself to interact with people and try to get these opportunities, because my main intention is to start performing live, and I'm gonna really get on top of that. And I should mention this album right here as well. This is my most recent album with Ordo Ab Chao. This one came out back in 2024. Yeah, this one came out in the fall of 2024. Very, very happy with this album. I was really disappointed when this album came out because I put so much effort into it. Again, very nice cover that I had designed by a guy out of South America. Again, professional CDs here, Glassmaster CDs. I spent a lot on these CDs. I had 100 of these printed from a place out of Toronto. Really put a lot of effort into these songs, and the production is fairly good. I had a different guy do the production on this, or rather the mixing and the mastering of this album. He was a real asshole though. I remember dealing with him. Had a real fucking attitude, this guy, and I thought he would have been good. He played in the band out of Winnipeg here, and initially he was interested in doing the mixing and the mastering of it, but what a complete fucking prick he was, and definitely not somebody I would ever deal with again. And in fact, I'm working with Mike, who's the guy that worked on these albums with me. So that's the guy I'm going to be working with now. I currently am working with him on my next album. So my new band now is Eternal Forest. I just decided I'm going to kind of put Ordo Ab Chao aside. Just decided I'm going to do this new band, Eternal Forest. It's kind of a continuation of Ordo Ab Chao, kind of, sort of. Like I said, my main intention now is to perform live. I know it's going to be a real struggle. I know I'm going to experience quite a bit of rejection. And already I'm trying to get in contact with people and online, trying to figure out who's who do I need to contact, and trying to be a bit more proactive. So I do have a few leads already, but I need to get this album done. I'm almost done recording it. I just need to do the vocals now. So I'll get that done this month in January. Then Mike will start mixing the album. So it should be done sometime in the spring, late spring, early summer maybe, I'm thinking. But it's going to be really good. I put a lot of effort into this new album with Eternal Forest. So yeah, my main objective is to start performing live. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I'm just going to push through it as much as I can. It'll just be a one-man band performing live. I'll use backing tracks. I'll do the vocals and the guitar, like the main guitar and vocals. And yeah, I'm just excited about that. I had a new logo for this band created. I had some artwork created as well. Had some stickers printed already. That's another thing too. I've been printing shirts and stickers for years. I printed a bunch of designs for Ordo Ab Chao. None of them really sold. I've sold a few shirts maybe. I've given a bunch away. Stickers, same thing. I've given a bunch of stickers away. CDs, same thing. Like, you know, I'm online selling my CDs on Bandcamp. I have a pretty nice looking Bandcamp page that I've developed. My CDs are available on eBay as well. You know, they're available for relatively, you know, they're a pretty decent price, I must say. And but yeah, there's just been such little interest in it. Like this last CD that I did with Ordo Ab Chao here, I think this one only sold 2 CDs. Very disappointing. I was actually quite depressed for a while there because it just was not selling, and I thought for sure this was going to take off. I was putting a lot of effort, really being really proactive online, trying to promote myself, buying ads and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it just wasn't really working. And I really have no supporters. You know, I have a few people that are interested in the band, but you know, otherwise nobody's really helping me out at all. I'm just one guy doing it all on his own. It's quite difficult actually. It's quite the struggle. Be nice if I had some people to help me along, some friends or, you know, family members possibly, but there's just nothing. There's absolutely nothing. I'm just one guy struggling on his own, trying to figure everything out. But I'm persistent, and I'm going to continue this for the foreseeable future. I have no intentions of slowing down, even though I've experienced so many difficulties, and I will continue to experience difficulties. I know that, but I'm just going to push through. I'm going to pursue performing live with Eternal Forest, and I'm going to get some merchandise printed. I got those stickers printed already. I'm going to get some shirts printed. I got somebody designing some new artwork for me, so I'm going to use that for the shirts and try to develop a sort of a stage look. I'll get like a banner printed, you know, try my best to sort of develop an interesting look. and make it appealing, and just try my best to really interact with people and make new friends. And so, I can admit my shortcomings, that I, really haven't gone out much and really interacted with people and gone to shows. That's been one of my downfalls for sure. And, having social anxiety, it's tough really interacting with people, but I'm just gonna push through and do the best I can. Oftentimes if you have a few drinks, it kind of loosens you up, and, kind of use alcohol as a crutch sometimes. I think it's okay, as long as you don't get too carried away with it. But yeah, you know what? It's been a real struggle. It's been an incredible struggle, but I have such a passion for it. I have such a love for, heavy metal music and hard rock and all that kind of stuff. I just have such a passion for music and creating it and just expressing myself. And I'm not in it for the money, certainly not, because there is nothing, there is no money in this, but fortunately I do have a steady daytime job that I go to, and that's working out well. So, I'm able to support myself that way. But yeah, you just got to have that passion for it. You got to have that love for it, because if you don't, you're going to get disappointed and you're going to quit. Like, I've been at this, for about 18 years now. I've been writing and recording music. And, I've just been continuously shit on, it seems. But, I'm persistent. I'm going to continue on. I'm not going to sit at home and cry, right? I know a lot of people would have quit by now, and a lot of people have, quit by now. People that haven't really experienced much success, they would have quit or have quit by now, many of them. But I'm just going to continue on, do the best I can, get better at everything. And yeah, I mean, there are a lot of resources out there that really can really help somebody like myself. I know there's somebody online that I'm going to contact. He's like a music promotional type of guy, does music marketing. So my intention is to contact him and for him to help me out. And he does charge, of obviously, and but it's a fairly decent, it's a reasonable fee. So I think I'm gonna really go for that. And yeah, just continue pushing through. Like I said, I'm gonna continue to stress this. You gotta have that passion. You gotta have that love for it. Otherwise, you're just gonna get disappointed. And and I have become disappointed, but I've just always continued on, because I just have that love for it. I have that deep, deep love for this kind of music and just creating it and just expressing myself. You know what? And so I'm just going to continue on despite all the hardships and all that. But I think that's about all I have to really say. And yeah, thanks for hearing my story. And I know this wasn't the happiest topic, but I just something I wanted to talk about and express. And yeah, if anybody can help me out, just let me know what I should do. Leave some comments how I can sort of better my music career and get ahead. If there's any suggestions, any way you can help me, I'm always open to anything. And appreciate it so much for you all to watch my video, and truly appreciate all of you. And so yeah, leave me some comments. Give me a like. If you don't subscribe to my channel, please subscribe. And so I want to say Happy New Year to everybody. And yeah, take care. All right, my friends. Cheers.